Okay, in this lesson, we are going to look at or start the discussion on traits of leadership, and we're going to use 1 Timothy 3 as our backdrop for that. So if you will turn to 1 Timothy 3, 1 through 7, and read along with me or read along with the PowerPoint. It's up to you. 1 Timothy 3, 1 through 7 says, "The saying is trustworthy. If anyone aspires to the office of not a lover of money, he must manage his household well with all dignity, keeping his children submissive. For if someone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he care for God's church? He must not be a recent convert, or he may become puffed up with conceit and fall into the condemnation of the devil. Moreover, he must be well thought of by outsiders, so that he may not fall into the disgrace, into a snare of the devil." Now, what I want to look at first off is the word overseer, because I think that is pivotal for our understanding of what this passage is really saying and how we're to use this passage and understand what Paul is truly saying. And so in the word of overseer, if you look it up in the Greek, the word is episkopos. Now, episkopos has two definitions. The first is onlooker, watcher, protector, or patron. The activity of this word takes on the form of one who graciously looks down upon one being protected or cared for. The second one is a title to denote various offices, regardless of the specific details of the office. And so essentially what that means is this word episkopos had two main uses in the Greek. The first one being onlooker, watcher, protector, patron, or a generic usage of it, just denoting any office or position someone would hold. So if you were to take the two definitions and you were to use them in the religious context, such as Christianity, it actually takes on a stronger definition by incorporating both forms of the word. And so Paul takes this and he uses it strategically in order to take this somewhat generic, general word and bring it together and give it a little bit more meaning or understanding for us as Christians. And so when you take the two definitions, you put them together, they basically say it is an overseer is one who is the gracious protector and onlooker by the nature of their office or position, whose primary responsibilities are to protect and care for those entrusted to him. Now, you're going to want to know this definition because it's going to show up somewhere along the way down the road. So really pay attention to this. An overseer is one who is the gracious protector and onlooker by the nature of their office or position, whose primary responsibilities are to protect and care for those entrusted to him. So if we are, again, to put this definition in the context of a spiritual leader or one who is overseeing the development or the discipleship of another Christian, we can kind of see why Paul is using this word and why it is significant that we understand what he really is saying. Because I would say, if I were to guess, most of us, when we look at the word overseer, then what we usually think of or how we translate that in our own understanding or how we've been taught over the years is that it is indicating someone who is a pastor or a bishop or some sort of positional leader within a Christian community. And really, for me, as I look at the original definition of this word and look at what Paul is trying to say, to me it is more speaking in a general, broader sense of anyone who is a Christian is considered a spiritual leader or an overseer. Because if we look at what Jesus said to the disciples as he was being taken up away from them, he told them, "Go and make disciples." They didn't have positions. They weren't bishops or pastors or anything. Even as a disciple, they weren't anything more than just a follower of Jesus. And so when he is telling them to go and make disciples, and then we look at Paul saying that an overseer is one who is over someone or is a gracious protector and onlooker of that person, we see that it is no more than someone who is a spiritual leader in someone else's life. So one who is a discipler. So the question would be, is not, are you a pastor? And so you need to pay attention to this list that Paul is giving us. The question is more, are you a spiritual leader? Are you one who is discipling others in the art of following Christ? Because if you are, then you would be considered an overseer or episkopos. And so I think that when we start to understand that, and when we start to have that understanding of this word, we start to realize that it's not raising up a position. It's really Paul telling Timothy, hey, you need to give your people direction and guidance, and so that they understand how to be spiritual leaders in their community, among their friends, in their small groups, and in these house churches and all of that. And so the main point of the definition is show that an overseer is not strictly for pastor, but for any Christian leader in any context.